Hi, and welcome to another podcast of Simply Sincee. I am Sincee Callahan, metaphysician, chancellor at ELU, and my co-hosts are Sharon and Judy. And
Hello.
we do have some other people in our space, Mr. Stenso or Dave, Mr. Celino or Dom, and our producer, Darian English. So we communicate with them as we're going through these podcasts because they kind of keep us lined up.
Yeah.
They keep us,
Ooh.
they try very hard to keep us on target. And, if you could see what we see, hands flying up and words, maybe nobody's written on a board yet, but we know that's coming.
Yeah.
But, if you see us referring outside of this little circle, it's to the people that I just mentioned. So thank you for being here, joining us, and welcome. And we talked in some of the previous podcasts about, fear and the things that lead to fear. And the thing that keeps coming up is being truthful. And when we talk about, identifying yourself and your principles and all the things that we'll keep regurgitating throughout all the podcasts, the most important thing is being truthful in every aspect of your life. Not your truth, somebody else's truth, but the truth. There is an absolute truth about everything. The truth is like the sun, that's true, the moon, and the planet that we live in, and all the other planets we think we see and know, and all the things that we identify. And I know that there is some other metaphysician out there saying, how do we know for sure that there are planets in the universe? Somebody told us that, So I'm just going to say that there are planets in the universe, and one of them is the one we're on right now. And so the truth, though, is identifying ourselves in that same manner. Who are we truthfully? Who are we really? Mm-hmm. That's the question that we want to entertain today in this podcast. And we invite you to ask us questions. We want to be able to answer your questions. So if you have some questions, there will be a number and an email address, and you'll be able to contact. There's just information for you on the podcast that will allow you to communicate with us. And as we go along, we'll try to do this in a way that's live, where you're asking us the questions and we're answering them in live time. So with that, I want to toss the truth over to our wordsmith,
Oh boy.
Sharon.
Oh boy. Yeah.
So yeah. So what are some things that you can share with our listening audience and our viewers about being truthful? Some simple ways to just identify with the truth where it doesn't make you feel afraid or forbidden in some way.
Mm-hmm. I think the best way to start it is that little exercise that we said. What I like, what's the truth about what I like, what I don't like. That's kind of a way to start, I think. And you just start looking at, for me, I knew those things I wasn't being truthful with. So I guess for me, like the fear part, my fear, I didn't want to. What movie is that? Like, you can't handle the truth. What movie is that? The Tom Cruise thing?
Yeah.
But it was almost like, for me, I had to face that first, that fear. Because if I was truthful about what my fears were, I could really get to the, as you say, the top of it, which I love, that etheric, unconditional part. Mm-hmm. So I think the truth, I approach it with everything I do. So even myself, even with looking at life, whether I feel like I'm stuck in a box, or we talked about those things. What's the truth of that? Am I stuck in that? Why am I stuck in that? Oh, you know what? Boop. I'm letting that principle go by. I'm not being solid with that. So I think in everything I do, that's just who my essence of who I am is, just have to be truthful. That literally I can't even. And sometimes some things will come out of my mouth. I'm like, oh my God, I don't want to even say that, but I have to. And it's not in a malicious way or that I know something more than someone else. If someone comes into my space or I literally have to say it. They may not like it. They may, unfortunate, like she said, I'm softer. I'm rooting for literally everyone to have the best life possible, enjoy their life. But sometimes I'm brutally honest with myself, which is where I started, because I can't do that for someone else unless I start with myself, because then we start looking outside ourselves. Oh, well, you're not being truthful, you're not being truthful, all that stuff. So I have to start with that with myself. And that place, those fears, I think are really essential to kind of tackle that right away. What are you afraid of? What's the truth about that? What's the truth about who I am? Do I there's a period in my life where I'm just a victim. I'm just miserable. I just am living a miserable, victim-y kind of abusive life. And why? That's the truth. That was literally the truth. Once I said that and identified that, it wasn't even that I'm feeling sorry for myself. I'm just like, oh yeah, that's true. Do I want to hang on to that? Do I want to keep creating that? No, I don't want to do it. So I'm done.
The truth is, the moment that you're in.
Yeah.
One of the things that we've shared in previous podcasts is people hold on to things that have happened for years and years.
Right.
And
How many years
ago?
How many years ago?
Who are you in the moment that you're in right now?
Right.
And if you're still attached to something from a past time in your current life, you have to confront it and let it go. One of the hard things for us as humans to do is detach. We have to have attachments. We have to be attached to every little thing. We can't stand to be alone for a minute. We have to get a bird or a cat or a dog or a neighbor or a plant or something. We don't want to stop and confront ourselves and appreciate the peacefulness and the quietness. And, I'm moving toward vibration because there is a simplicity within ourselves that is an extension of, that we are an extension of. And, when you can get yourself quiet and flow into the rhythm of what the actual universe is doing, and maybe even find a way, if you can, to try to mimic it. You're not going to get it just right like the universe, but you're going to get it just right for you. And then just really enjoy that. That's where the truth begins. When you sit down and you tune in with yourself and you say, it's okay. It's okay for me to take 5. It's okay for me to listen to my own heartbeat. It's mine. It's okay for me to breathe in my nose and out my nose. I don't have to open my mouth and do all that. There's a mechanic to everything. I'm not saying opening your mouth and closing your nose and whatever. It's a lot for me, but I'm not saying all those rhythms aren't wrong, but what's your rhythm? How do you synchronize in the truth of what's actually going on around you? Who are you? And why do you need to be afraid of life? Why does anybody need to be afraid of life? It's beautiful. And, my husband's always like, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. He tells me that all the time. He'll drop something on his toe and he'll say, I'm not worrying about it. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful experience. For me, I could find some beauty in that because I don't want the pain. I will take that toe lick and say, oh, I'm supposed to be doing something else, I know that's not easy. I've been doing this for years. But we want to get to a point in life where we don't let little things stop us. We don't need to be in a box. We don't need to be blocked. We need to identify with ourselves and understand the simplicity of truth. If you can be truthful about who you are, life is so comfortable. And I'm not saying you have to go around and plaster everybody. This is my truth. This is the truth. This is your... Truth is what it is. But you don't have to go and try to push it on anybody else. Whatever the circumstances are, there is a truthfulness, and that is respect all and everyone. But who am I is where it all begins. And as Sharon was trying to explain to us, that it's just important to be able to know what you like, what you don't like, what you tolerate, what you won't tolerate. And you can say what you want without being afraid. You can be who you need to be without worrying about what somebody else if you're worrying about what other people think, you're not living in your own space. It's not your life. It's somebody else's life. And that is something I think we need to be conscious of. If you're worried about what someone else thinks, you've handed your life over to them. So you're in a box.
And when you're doing that, you might be missing the opportunity to meet another life who will enhance your life.
Absolutely.
So that's another a way of looking at it is, if I'm spending all my time worrying about what this person thinks of me and I'm not being truthful with myself, then, I'm missing an opportunity somewhere else that might be a benefit that, will help me with new tools or whatever. So,
What are some of the tools, Sharon, that you use to help people like that may be stuck in like fear and anger and places like that? What are some of the things that you guys do to help people to confront themselves?
Yeah, usually we will ask a lot of questions about that fear. Try to really dig into what that fear is. Like, why are you afraid of that? And we do this. Well, I guess that's what we work with, that little exercise, the note cards, like the abuse, guilt, shame, lack, lust, and fear. And we have people usually start with that abuse card, what they've been received in their life and what they've done in their life, and take a look at that. And then it's when I did them for my own personal self, I jump around. I'm like, I'm not going to name what people would call me, but I can go on all different subjects. Okay, you know what I'm talking about. So for me, I jumped around, but it was okay because I kept coming back. And how those kinds of things, let's look at where that comes from. Let's look at where that comes from. And it can take a long time for people. It's not something that is done overnight, but I think for helping someone through those things, they just literally have to be just brutally honest with themselves and truthful. What is this really? Is this happening now? Like if it's something that's happened to them in the past, like where there's abuse or there's a relationship or whatever, that no longer exists.
And if it ever really did,
And if it is that
had
true,
clients-
like there's abuse from people, like they'll say they've been abused. Well, tell me about that.
Yes.
So that's another thing that's tricky. Like they will say, oh, this person abused me. Okay, let's talk about that. And I'll be like, whoa, like Dave and I'll say that really, you
There's no
really
abuse
weren't
there.
abused by that
And all
person.
these years you've been living
Yeah.
in this lie and
Right.
afraid
Right.
of something you've created, which is
Yeah.
what we do most of the time.
Right. And it's like trying to help them understand. And then sometimes, like,
And
it'll just
detach
come out of my mouth, like, that doesn't sound truthful, like it just, think about that. Does that sound truthful? If you've, just really holding people accountable to what I hold myself accountable. So that was the only thing that helped me. I worked really hard at holding myself accountable to that truth. So if you're coming to me, I'm going to hold you accountable to that. That's literally what Dave and I talk
Yes.
about. We won't tolerate that.
It's one of your principles.
It just won't. It's not that we would say, oh, I'm not going to tolerate that. I'm just going to say there's really nothing else I can do.
And,
It's
and
okay.
what
Hi, I'm Dave Stenzel. As a life coach, I help other people determine who they are and their principles. At ELU, there's a full curriculum that can help you as a therapist, as a counselor, as a life coach, help develop skills to help people discover more of who they are and live a truthful life. It all comes down to a person knowing their principles and the truth, and then as a platform to discover their best track for having a life of fulfillment.
What I love
It's
about
okay.
the work that we do is
Yeah.
we don't have a problem with telling a person that's not true.
Yeah. And
That's not true because of what you just shared with me.
Right.
That's not true.
Right. And
So
because
what
people,
is the truth?
they hold on to things and it's like, wow, that really doesn't exist. It either no longer exists or
never
it never did exist. And it's like, okay. So then, if they can take a look at that truthfully, it really is up to the person. It's nothing that Dave and I can do. We're not magicians. We're not anything special in that way. We're just ourselves. The work is that individual. And the great thing is, when they do discover that, it's great. And then sometimes they just need a little more time. But it's like when you're a parent, you can give some information and then they will take it and then maybe they won't take it. I've had that with myself. I've had people give me like a good reflection on myself. I'm like, oh, I can't do that yet.
Yes.
And it takes a little bit of time for some people, but that doesn't mean I continue on that path because
You confront it.
I have to confront it and I can't do anymore. But the best thing for anyone is just be truthful in everything you do. That's it. Just the key is if you're just truthful with yourself. There's nothing I can say if you resist that. Because if you don't want to do it, I can't make somebody do that.
What do you do when you have a client that feels that they've been abused and they don't want to confront the abuse, and they try to get around that, and the other part of that is, do you find that your clients who feel that they've been abused, do you find that they are very abusive themselves?
Yes. Yes. That's the second part of that question I answered, yes. Because I know in my own experience with experiencing a form of abuse, I became, and then that's not who I am. And when I wrote that down, I went, okay, all right. I didn't feel bad about it. I just felt like, oh my gosh, that's the truth about me. So I think for me, I try to guide somebody into taking a look at themselves. That's always, Dave and I always circle back to, and those abuse cards are fabulous because it helps somebody. You cannot just say, if you've been abused, more than likely you've rolled over into that abuse area. You've
And the other part of
probably
that
rolled
is
over in there.
the regret that comes with that.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
But getting back to the abuse, everybody, a lot of times people will go to a dictionary or a therapist for the definition of it.
Right.
One of the things that we like to do is
Yeah.
define abuse
Right.
in your own words,
Right.
and based on your own experiences.
Right.
Because it can be so broad.
Yeah.
And when you're working with an individual, and if you are working at this yourself, the way you start this is, what is abuse to me? What does that look like in my life? What is abuse for me?
Right. Define first. That's how
Define the
yeah.
abuse that you think you've had in your life. And, when you do that without, some people have these coined things about abuse is if somebody beats you up or if this happens or
Right.
that. That might not be your abuse. You might be missing something because everybody has their own thing that feels abusive.
Description.
It could just be my mom made me eat grits and eggs for breakfast every day. It could
That was
be,
abusive,
it could be
wasn't it?
abusive. My
Could be, if they're
my
not
parents
good.
made me eat everything on my plate.
Right.
Sometimes that, if it feels like abuse and you've turned it into something else, like I don't eat anything because my parents made me eat everything, that's what you want to confront these things. There's always something there in the physical that you've manifested from all these other layers. And we have to confront it. And once you can confront it, and that's your specialty, helping people
Yeah.
to see the truth, when you can confront that, you have to work at detaching from it. You
It's
don't need to have a
freeing.
backpack of a
Yeah.
whole bunch of
And-
junk that you don't need anymore.
And I think detaching from it, and I'll always say you can keep that. We keep talking about the same thing. If that's a way for someone to see, if we're talking about the same thing, you can give. I always use myself as an example. I'll give myself time, but then there's also like, I'm not enjoying my life. I need to
Absolutely.
get this done.
How do I get to the point where I love my life?
Yeah.
Because in our society today, people
Right.
watch everybody on some kind of media platform, and they get into their lives and they think they're enjoying their life by watching someone
Right.
else's.
Right.
Well, the time is passing and you're not creating, you're not living. It's almost like saying, I know you gave me life, but I don't know why.
When social media first came out, for me, it was interesting. A friend of mine at the time, and I had gone to lunch, and she says, let's take a picture and put it on social media to let everybody see what a good time they're missing. And then it was like this light bulb went off, and I'm like, I didn't know that's what social media was about. I was
Yes.
naive about that. I thought, oh my God, that's so untruthful. That's so
It's kind of
deceitful.
rude.
It's rude, and I was like, wow, that just blows my mind that this is what people think that they're supposed to do. They're supposed to let everybody else believe that they have the best life in the world when none of it is truthful. They're just putting out these false energies that I don't want to be a part of, because it
And
doesn't.
that's a good point, because you want to ask yourself, why? Am I one of those people?
Yeah.
It's okay.
I would.
Yeah,
There's
it's not
nothing
wrong.
wrong.
I would.
It's just
But
that,
if
I
you,
did it.
If you want to know why, ask yourself the simple question.
Yeah,
I love challenging people with that, because it's my favorite thing to do, because they're like, well, I'm on Facebook for this. I said, oh, I wasn't. I was on it for the attention. You tell me that you post something and you don't want to you never look at it again. I said, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to challenge you on that because I did it, and then like, oh, who sent a note back? Oh my God, how exhausting. 4 hours later, 3 hours later, what a waste of time. I do like Marketplace, though. I am going to give a plug for that. I do like Marketplace. Okay, just so you know, I love a good bargain. Okay.
Yeah.
So I will do that. But it's okay though. For me now, it doesn't aggravate me as much. And I remember when I went off it completely, and then I get back on from Marketplace. But
How many plugs are we going to give
I
them?
think
You know what,
maybe, but I'm okay with it. It
There's
doesn't
no
matter
right
to
or
me.
wrong.
Yeah, it just
Exactly.
There's no
it's
right or wrong, just finding your own
teasing.
vibe and let it be
Exactly.
your vibe.
Right.
Exactly.
It's okay to
Right.
be on the social media if
Exactly.
it's for something you want to do.
Exactly.
But if
Yeah.
you're doing it for the
'Cause it's-
benefit of somebody else in a way
Exactly.
that's
Or to be untruthful.
And all my friends
that's
know.
not beneficial.
Yeah.
All my friends know that are on there, if they want me to see a picture of something they've done, they send it to me. They do not for a while they'll be like, you didn't see that? I go, no, I'm not looking for that. I said, if you want me to see something or you want to share something with me, just text me. I'll get it in a text. So they'll just text me and send me a picture. I'm like, oh, that looks fun, or that's really nice. Where was I going? Now I've lost track of my thought. Because I talked about.
You don't want to identify
Oh yeah, thank you.
your life with what other people say your life
Right.
should be, because that we're talking about being truthful.
I will.
You know, and if you want to be truthful, none of that. Life is beautiful. Social media might be your beautiful life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's
But you
okay.
just want to understand that and let it be your choice, and for the benefit of others. You know, I know there's a lot of people on social media that are trying to survive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and if that's
Businesses.
what you do, and business is business.
That's their
You
business.
do-
Yeah, and I don't
I
mind
respect business.
I do too.
You know,
Yeah.
and if I can contribute to a business that I feel is genuine and helping others, I will. You know, it doesn't matter what platform it's on.
Yep.
You know, but it's not. It should not be the way we communicate. I mean, I have met young people today that don't even know how to talk anymore. They order their food online. It's delivered in a box. They really literally live in the box.
Yeah, that's a
They
box.
order their clothes. They order paper, trash bags. It doesn't matter. They don't use their physical body to go and interact with other physical bodies. And then, you know, I've heard these same people who are doing all this talk about how they don't like AIs and how they're going to take over the world. And I'm thinking, well, thanks to you. Because you won't walk it to the store or the park or go drive your car to the market, and I mean, there's all type of arguments out there, but the way you prevent all of that is by identifying yourself and being truthful with
Right.
yourself. And, there's all kind of souls and all kind of journeys, and some souls are here just to do the stuff that's being done on social media. There are those of us who are not doing the stuff on social media that all of us old timers, we like to touch and feel and hug and, squeeze and, we
Try on.
we want to
On
see
the
what kind of
telephone.
cologne you're wearing,
Hello.
and we
Hello.
want to write a letter and put a stamp on an envelope. We've got to the point where we're not licking anymore, but every now and then, if we can't get to
that's
the water,
right.
so it's
Forgot about
there are generations of soul and the experiences that we have to have. But what we're trying to, the point that we're trying to share is just be truthful.
Yeah, whatever you do.
You don't have to create a fakeness of yourself, because soul does not make a mistake in the choice of the being that it chooses. It chooses the physical body that it needs to have the experience in. So allow it to. You don't have to go on social media and pretend you're something that you're not. Or even dating sites, use a false picture to identify yourself, and then a
Right.
person meets you. That's just like wearing a whole bunch of things on your body, and then when they finally get to the raw deal of you, you're not the same person that they thought they saw when they met you. So, that's the kind of truth that I think the simple truth.
Yes.
There are things, that you may not want to share with people. It doesn't mean you're being dishonest or you're not being truthful. You just made a choice not to share certain things. But things that when you're out there saying and doing stuff, you want to just do your best to be your raw self. That's all. That's what we're saying. And to be comfortable. And it doesn't matter if somebody criticizes you or say you're a lie, or various things like that, because people will do that. They'll tell you who they think you are. And it's up to you to tell them, no, that's not who I am.
Which takes you back to knowing who you are.
Yeah, you have to be
it does.
confident. People will challenge you,
Yeah.
especially in these media markets that we have, and what we're trying to say to all of you,
Let's use it
who are
wisely.
listening, especially those who are doing the media stuff, that just be okay with who you actually are, and nobody can harm you or affect you in any way, no matter what they say or do.
Yeah, I think what's interesting, though, you can see that on social media, different platforms and stuff, you can kind of tell, like sometimes I'll say to you, I'm buying what they're selling. I think there is an authenticness that comes through. Obviously, there's a value. There's for, like you
Somewhat.
said, people's
Oh,
livelihoods.
absolutely.
And I'm okay with that. I think there's an authenticity to people, and I'm like, wow, they just seem, their vibe, I like to say vibe, it just seems very authentic. They're being who they are, and then
If
others.
it's comfortable to you, then
Yes,
it's probably a part of your own vibration.
Yeah.
If it synchronizes, I should say,
Yeah,
with your
I like that.
vibration.
I like that. It
And
just-
I think that's how we keep harmony in our own lives. If it doesn't feel good, it's probably not.
Right.
And that means everything. People, relationships,
Yeah.
places,
Yeah.
things. If it doesn't feel good, move to the thing that's more truthful for you.
Yeah, and the other time too, like certain things don't feel comfortable to me prior to me living my life like this, because I wasn't being truthful. So there's also that level of discomfort where you're just not being truthful, and that's why you might be uncomfortable. So there's that kind of thing to think about too. Just something to think
Just
about.
a little something to think about.
something.
And with that,
There it is.
we're going to end this podcast. We're coming to the end of this podcast, I should say. And so the thing that we'd like for you to take with you today is, for the next week, I always like to give you something to do. Just see how comfortable you are saying the truth when it's absolutely necessary. Because you don't have to go back and try to fix it. You don't have to say all the things that your whole life story. Nobody really wants to hear that. Write a book, sell it on one of those big giant platforms that used to stop. But so what we want to share with you though actually is the truth is actually like the light of you. It is the thing that shakes you up inside and gets you shining and get you feeling good and sharing good. If that's what you're intended to do in this lifetime. So practice telling the truth, the absolute truth, not anybody else's truth or even your truth, the truth. Mm-hmm. And we're going to leave with that. And I want to thank Sharon and Judy and Dave and Dom and Darian. And we hope to see you soon. If you have any questions for us or would like to know more about our courses or different sessions and therapies that we have, please contact us. The information is available for you at the end of this podcast. Thank you so much. We hope to see you again soon.